everybody. We're about to get a little up close and personal with my adductor. So about 3 weeks ago, training in the weight room, lifting, I tore a chunk out of my adductor magnus. It's a big muscle inside of the thigh, helps close your thigh like that. And I was just doing too much, squatted too low, and rip, there it went. Now, was it painful? Yes. Was it painful for a while? Yes. But the upside of any time I get injured in working in physical therapy is that there's always the silver lining of finding a new way to treat it, finding a better way to treat this injury. And that's what I did. So immediately, I went to my go-to tape method, which is unload tape, and it immediately felt 50% better. Didn't take a day off of workouts, had to modify my workouts a little bit. Didn't take a day off of martial arts classes. Was a little bit easy on it in those, but it was feeling much, much better. I stopped taping it for a while. Had it taped for a week, maybe a week and a half. I stopped taping it for about a week. And then last night in class, practicing some clinch work up against the wall, I think I re-injured it. I'm not sure if I tore another chunk out of it, but it's possible. Anyway, I thought I would share with you guys the tape method that I use to support that. It's called an unload tape, and I'm adding in a few extra things into it this time that I'm hoping will help because I've got jujitsu in about an hour. So the two tapes I use are Coverall and Leuco tape. Coverall is very sticky on the skin, and that allows me to use the Leuco tape or strapping tape to, it allows it to adhere to something because it does not stick on the skin very well. So the adductor magnus almost acts as kind of a fourth hamstring in the actions that it performs. So when I was strength testing my hamstrings, for instance, after this injury, it felt quite a bit weaker on this side. Now I think that's a little bit of neural inhibition, my brain knowing that my body is injured, and so it's not delivering the signal to contract as hard on that side with, let's say, a hamstring curl. So I'm going to be adding something extra in here that I didn't do last time, and I'm hoping it'll work, and I'll let you guys know after I do this. But it's just going to be using a few pieces of Leuco here to support the muscle. And I do this a lot on people, and it seems to help. And it really is a little bit just extra here. The real magic comes from the unload tape, which I will show in a second. Okay, so I'm getting my Leuco on there. Now the attachment points for the adductor are basically right at the pubic symphysis, right up in here in the groin. And then it comes down and attaches to the lower half inside of our femur. Really the lowest point being right down at the top of that medial femoral condyle. So the last time I injured this, I just taped up this inside attachment here, just below this top attachment for the muscle there. And I swear it took 50% of the pain away immediately and allowed me to do so much more. Made it so I didn't have to take any days off, which, you know, I don't want to take any days off. I'm going to have a fight coming up. Finally figured out the date, May 15th. And so, you know, I am training for that as much as it is possible to fit training into my schedule, and as much training as it is possible for my body to handle. Obviously, I'm tearing muscles off here. Okay, so I've got that supportive tape in. I'm going to unload this bottom attachment too. I didn't do that last time. So the reason I've got it propped up on this pillow is when you do an unload tape, and I'll explain kind of how that unload tape works in a little bit, but when you do that unload tape, you really want the muscle belly, that contractile tissue, you want it slacked off. You don't want it in a stretch, and you definitely don't want it in a contraction, or else you're not really going to unload it, because if the muscle is stretched, if it's stiff and contracted, you're going to be putting pressure on it, and then when that muscle relaxes, it's not going to have the same sort of pressure on it. So the way a unload tape works, I'm using 2 pieces of Luco here. You see I put the first one down there, attach it to the bottom portion of that tape, folded it back, and this next one will be a little bit longer, attaching to the top portion here, and I'm going to kind of make a tent over the top of that muscle. So this is about the lowest part of the attachment for that muscle, and I'm gonna allow the skin to pinch a little bit here, but I'm gonna be pulling real tight and then attaching it down at the bottom. I'm going to cover that up with another piece of coverall here, because that Luco will tend to pop off if you don't. Okay, there we go. So all of this stuff here is new. I did not do that last time, and maybe I should have. Like I said, this is a bit experimental, but in theory it should help. And especially because I know that the unload helped a few weeks ago when I first did this. Okay, so I'm going to lay my piece of coverall down. Make my teepee again, or tent. I guess we're not allowed to say teepee anymore. No, I think we're allowed to say teepee. Almost there. And so once I'm done taping this, I'll kind of show you guys how why an unload tape is supposed to help. I originally learned this just to unload the patella tendon, and over the years I've tried it on just about every part of the body and have just gotten phenomenal results with it. It's easy to do, it doesn't take much time, and tape is cheap, so I always figure, why not try it and see how it does. The worst part about this tape is just trying to take this stuff off. This stuff is really sticks to the skin, and I've seen it actually peel skin off of someone who tried to rip it off like a band-aid once. So you always want to get it soaking wet first, preferably soaking wet with rubbing alcohol or some sort of oil that'll eat away at the adhesive. and then even then, to peel it off slowly. All right, so that tape job is done. I'll see if it helps me squat any deeper in a second. So the way an unload tape works is, if this is my muscle here, I've got an attachment on each side that attaches onto the bone, and in the middle is contractile tissue. That's what muscle does. It's able to contract and it's able to stretch out. Theoretically, what an unload tape does is, if I've got the muscle attachment here, back up a little bit more. If I've got a muscle attachment here, unloading that is like putting pressure here. So now, when that muscle pulls, it's not pulling quite so hard at the attachment. It's kind of breaking it into sections and distributing the load over multiple attachments. So I did it on both sides today. It's not something I normally do, but in theory, it should work. Well, I gotta run off to jiu-jitsu and test this thing out. And oh yeah, deep squat feels much better. See you guys.